already brewed over, I think since we've already brewed over 150 barrels worth. I got into beer being that I was a home brewer. I started homebrewing about 5 years ago. While I was a home brewer, I started working for Glacier Distributing. So I was actually on the wine team, so I sold wine for a living. But my brother-in-law got me into beer, so I became really kind of infatuated with beer shortly thereafter. I wanted to get into the beer industry, so I actually left Glacier to manage the International Tap House in Soulard, which is a local beer bar that has over 500 beers, like 44 on tap. Learned a lot about beer real fast and met a lot of beer people. While I was working there, I had a lot of time during the day because I was a bartender, and so I read a bunch of articles, and I always was catching up on beer news, and that's how I found Phil and Emily. They were in a published article up in Chicago saying they are moving down to St. Louis to start a brewery about, I guess it's probably almost 2 years ago now, and I immediately found him on Facebook and sent him a message. Like, I'm not a big Facebook user, but it was cool because I found him. And so I sent him, a message saying, hey, I want to work for you. Fortunately, I had experience as a home brewer. Some of the recipes we are brewing with one that I just matched in is completely my recipe. Phil's really been great letting me do those things. So I got lucky and Phil decided to hire me. Like I'm the only full-time person back here in the cellar other than Phil. So that mill up there, all that does is, if you look, it kind of breaks open, kind of leaves the husk behind. The husks actually in the mash tun act as a natural filter. So the more intact the husks are and the more cracked open the inside is, the better for us for sugar extraction and then actually filtering. And then this, obviously it's a different color, but this is the chocolate malt that is unmilled. So that's what the malt looks like before it comes in milled. This one's actually dehusked. So even if we milled this, you get more powder, you won't have any of the husk stuff. But that's a dehusked chocolate malt there. Correct. But that's what that mill does. So that just does, 500 pounds you saw relatively quick, and we just leave that up there. So when it goes in there, it's kind of hard to see because it's steamy, but it's already wet oatmeal already, and it just kind of hits and spreads out real nice. So I don't even have to really stir it very much. It does it by itself. And here's our temperature. I can adjust my temperature on the fly right here with the water going in, and then this is my temperature here. That's actually inside of the mash tun. And all that mash tun is really, I'm just making like a big hot oatmeal, and it has a false bottom, meaning the bottom has little holes in it that I can drain the liquid out and leave all the solids behind. When the summer all of our fermentation takes place, this is where the yeast actually create beer. They take the sugar water that we've made for them, and hopefully we give it a nice environment to live in. The beer I'm making right now, the one you guys saw me mash in on, will be a sour mash beer. So I mashed right now, and I won't come back and brew it until Saturday. So that warm grain naturally has bacteria and yeast growing on it. So those bacteria and yeast will take over in that mash tun and start growing as soon as the temperature gets where we're happy with it. And I'm going to come back Saturday and actually brew. So it should be a nice tart acidic beer before we even start. If you see, when they're going at it, it'll produce a lot of CO2. So this is a batch that we brewed 2 days ago. So that's just the yeast inside. That's always a good sign for us. There's nothing better when you come the next day and it's actually fermenting. That's sweet. We did our job. Well, we don't hand label. We have a machine, but we have to. It's not completely automated, so like every bottle of beer we've touched with our hands to label each one of them. So fortunately, like I said, we don't hand label, which would be like one at a time, just by hand, but it works pretty well. So people just assume that we sit and make beer all the time. Like, we can't. We only have 4 tanks to pump beer into. There's a lot that goes in this job other than just making beer. Everybody always wants to see the brew house, and if you're not here 1 or 2 days a week when we're actually using it, you won't see that part. You'll see us down here cleaning kegs and worrying about shipments out in the market. Taking care of the cellar, watching these different beers down here, making sure everything's all right. Getting ready for barrel aging stuff. So, but people will come in here and they're like, "Why aren't you brewing today?" Like, well, we don't brew that often right now. We're a tiny brewery who just opened. So one day we'll be brewing more, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just all the time brewing beer. St. Louis is a great opportunity for us because this is a beer town. Thanks to AB, a lot of people here drink beer. There's towns where not everybody just sits and enjoys beer. as our generation is turning 21, you know, they're jumping straight into the craft brands because they find them, you know, they're more local and they're supporting more of the small business, and people like that. It's going all right. I like making beer, and I got no problem making beer. I think right now we're all really working together really well to actually draw attention to how small we are, but how local we are, and that there is other beer out there besides just you know, American lagers. Which there's nothing wrong with those beers. I enjoy them every now and then. It's just there's so much more out there, so many different flavors they can develop. But I think people nowadays really like to support that localness, like that. I know that family, you know, that owns that company and works there, and they really want to support that. So it's worked out well. So far, so good. Come back in a year and we'll talk again.